Okay, for today's project, I'm removing the front bumper because I'm removing the active grille shutters because I don't need them on my application because I have a aftermarket intercooler installed. I've actually decided to remove them to improve cooling on that intercooler. So there's really no reason for it to be there. Plus I live in Texas and we don't ever see temperatures cold enough to actually utilize those louvers adequately. On the 2020, we're going to start by removing the little pop snaps that are here, and we'll pull this panel off and set it to the side. And then once we've done that, we've got some little snaps inside the wheel well. And here you got one up here, you got one there, and then two back there. If you have difficulty getting to those, you can actually turn the steering wheel left and right to give you more clearance to reach in there. You just want to pop all those out. And once we get those out, we'll pull this back, and there's two 10mm nuts behind this panel here that will take loose, that will release a portion of the front bumper. You'll see as we go along further in the video. Next, we've got to take all these bolts on the underside on the skid plate loose. I think there's like 12 or 14 possibly. And then you got these snaps all under here. Make sure you get all of them. Take your time. Keep up with everything. You don't want to lose anything. Take those loose, and then you'll be able to remove the skid plate from the underside of the car. Okay, once you have your skid plate removed, while you're under here, if you're not using a lift, you can actually go ahead and reach up and disconnect your lights, your turn signal lights or turn signal light fog light assemblies, and dangle the cables down. They're right there. Just unplug them. It's got a little snap that you unplug. It's right there. Do that on both sides. A moment ago, I was telling you about some 10mm nuts behind this panel. I'm gonna pull it back and show you where they're at. They're right there. Take both those loose. There's two on each side of the car. Take those loose, and then we'll get to the last step before taking the bumper cover off. Once you've removed those 4 10mm nuts off the side, you've got one of these on each side that you've got to remove, and then these bolts right here. I believe there's 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And those should be the last bits of hardware you remove before the bumper cover comes off. You're probably wondering what this wiring is for. I installed some red LEDs that illuminate behind my grille. They're kind of dim, so I don't catch any attention from the law, but just something I did. Be very cautious removing your front end. You don't want to drop it. You don't want to yank it or break anything. What's going to hold on the sides where those two 10mm nuts were is this little plastic pop rivet type grips. Just kind of want to ease those out by leaving these hung over the top of the front. That way the bumper doesn't fall. You don't want to scratch your paint. You don't want to overflex it and crack the paint. Just ease those out, and then you'll be able to grab and lift. I usually grab right here beneath the pony and lift and carry the whole assembly over and set it on the ground. Once you've done that, your active grille shutter system will be exposed. A lot of people will actually cut a line across here and just remove the lower half. You've got a temperature sensor over here. Just kind of want to ease that out. To remove the active grille shutter system, you want to pop these pop tabs out with a flathead screwdriver. Take these 2 bolts out and these 2 bolts out on the bottom side. And then there's a plug back here that you want behind it that you want to disconnect that controls the motor. And then there is an armature down here that you've got to remove so that you can get it out from around the bumper. Once you get your active grille shutter assembly kind of pulled back, there are 2 bolts right here in the very top of this armature that you've got to remove to separate this armature so that you can get it across the bumper. Following all the steps that I have shown you gets you to the point you need to be at to install an aftermarket intercooler. That's my aftermarket intercooler. It's a Mishimoto. I didn't do a video on the install, unfortunately. I probably should have, but this gets you to that point where you can take this crossbar here off, you know, disconnect your map sensor down here, disconnect your hose clamps down here, and then you'll be able to work the factory intercooler out from down here so that you can install the aftermarket part. Now, to get the active grille shutter motor out so that you can plug it back in behind the bumper so you don't get an engine light or a code, what you want to do is you'll pop this plate off of here slowly using a flathead screwdriver to release the clips on that side, and then on the other side you'll need to release this off the front of this assembly right there. And then once you've done that, you'll be able to remove this motor out of the assembly. What we'll do is plug the motor back in and zip tie it up in here using these holes right here. I'll probably tuck it back here and zip tie it around the main harness behind the bumper. Okay, now that we have gotten our motor zip tied in place back here and plugged in, all we're going to do is reassemble everything in the reverse of what we took it apart. I'm going to take my hardware that normally would hold my active shutters, I'm going to put it back in so that I don't have to keep up with it. All I got to do is keep up with the main assemblies. That way, if I ever should want to put it back in, that's all I got to do. Just take your time, be careful, like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Tools used for removal of the front bumper cover was a small flathead screwdriver to help remove the locking tabs for the snaps, 10mm socket, 8mm socket, a 7/32 socket, and a 9/32 socket.